Hello, I'm Amy Lee Miller. I'm a career coach, hiring consultant, and recruiter. Let's talk resumes. I've seen a lot of them, some really great, some that could use a lot of work. I'm not a resume writer. The number one reason being I don't believe in it. I believe that you should write your own resume. So sorry, not sorry to say this, but stop being lazy. Write your own resume. I will often hear candidates say, oh, I haven't gotten a resume writer. I need to do that. But here's a tip, you can write your own resume and it doesn't have to be perfect. If you're not getting interviews, it's not your resume that's holding you back. It's you. Think about it. If you are actively pursuing opportunities, yet you've chosen not to take the time to sit down and polish up your resume, well, whose fault is that? And I've actually seen some pretty glaring mistakes on resumes from resume writers. So I will share a couple of those in a moment. But first, let's talk about why it is important for you to write your own resume. Your resume is your one-page version. Well, that's tip number one. It should be one page, or not version, representation. But your resume is your one-page representation of yourself. So one page most of the time, depending on your industry. If, for example, you have a PhD and you need to document all of your publications, well, then it can be many, many pages, and that's likely for a specified industry. But most of the time, it's going to be one page. And who knows your experience better than you? If you do need some tips and suggestions, you can utilize your resources. Check out the LinkedIn profile maybe of an accomplished teammate, somebody who you admire, whose footsteps you would like to follow in, and see what they highlight in their LinkedIn profile. You can also learn to teach yourself pretty much anything on YouTube these days. You can do a Google search, but take some time to invest in yourself by writing your own resume. So yes, back to your resume being the one-page representation of yourself, your educational, your career accolades, and you know that better than anybody else. So sit down, take some time to reflect on your experience so that you can document on your resume the important stuff, and just the important stuff, which is what a hiring manager is looking for. And that is where you worked, what you did there, what your responsibilities were, and what your achievements and accolades were. And chances are, once you sit down and reflect on your past experiences and achievements, it's going to help you feel really good about yourself, taking some time to put that together. That's also going to give you an uplift in your mindset, and having that positive mindset and outlook is actually also going to in turn help you attract the opportunities, the ideal opportunities toward you that you want. And also, if you take time to prepare your resume where you have your experience and your accolades documented very clearly, you're going to better be able to speak to your experience and achievements in an interview. So it's practice for that as well. Okay, so a couple mistakes that I've seen from resume writers. Once I presented a candidate for an opportunity and she had the exact ideal background that the hiring manager was looking for, and he didn't respond to my candidate submission. I always send a nice write-up after my conversation with the manager why I feel like their candidate's a good fit, along with their resume. And I was persistent because I didn't understand why he wasn't looking at her resume. So I sent it 4 times, and the 5th time, still no response. I sent it again, and I said, I'm not understanding. Help me understand why you're not responding to this resume. She has the exact experience that you're looking for. Well, it turned out there was a glaring mistake on the resume, so I took that back to the candidate. She fixed it. She interviewed and she got the job. But that's one pretty crazy example of how a supposed professional resume writer almost lost this candidate her opportunity. And then another time I saw a beautifully written, stellar resume written by a professional resume writer. The problem with this resume is the title that the resume writer gave the candidate was misleading. It read as though this candidate had more experience and was at a higher level in her career than what she really was. So this is now going to potentially set the candidate up for a challenge in the interview process, because then she's going to have to explain exactly what her role is, then the manager feels either confused or misled, and so it's not really starting the interview off on the right foot. You want to present yourself and your experience for exactly what it is. Be clear, be confident, be proud. I often tell candidates, hey, your experience is what it is, and that is great. Sometimes we check some of the boxes and not all, and it is still a great fit. Other times we check all of the boxes and it's not a fit for maybe a different reason. Your ability to be clear, to speak with direct, clear communication, to be confident in, hey, this is who I am, this is where I've been, this is what I've done, this is what I'm looking for and why. That shows your ability to prioritize your time well, because if you're not speaking clearly, you're trying to put yourself into a box of what you think the hiring manager might want, or you're trying to give them sort of you're giving them a puzzle by not being clear in exactly what your experience is, you're wasting time. And then that is demonstrating your lack of ability to prioritize. And it's also showing that you're not very confident because you're trying to maybe be something that you're not. It doesn't mean that you're not a great person. It's just best to just be yourself, because then you're going to attract the opportunities that are right for you. If it's not a fit, that's okay. It's also going to save you time and save the hiring manager time. So yes, let's see what else. What you want to include on your resume. So nobody reads resumes, okay? You want to be, the hiring manager and or the recruiter wants to quickly glance at a resume and understand where you worked, what you did there, and so your responsibilities and then your achievements very quickly, very clearly. A lot of times I'll see these 3-page resumes with so many words that don't say anything. If I do a lot of recruiting in medical sales specifically, and so sometimes I'll see medical sales reps resumes where they state all the obvious stuff. Like, we know, for example, that a sales rep, a medical sales rep, for example, is going to be doing in-services, educating the clinicians. We know that. But what type of clinician? What are you selling? And then what was your what was your sales performance while you were there? So none of that information is there. So still, we have no idea exactly what you did. So you want to include, if you're in sales, for example, who you called on, what you sold, and what your annual achievements were. And if you stick to just that and always stay with sentence fragments, never complete sentences or paragraphs in a resume, you want to use bullet points because it's easier for the eye to quickly look and take away the important information. If you stick to that, it's much more likely that your resume will be 1 page or close to 1 page, depending on where you are in your career. If you're early on or mid-level or even advanced in your career, but especially early on to mid-level experience, your resume should definitely be 1 page. And if it's not, you are just being lazy. Take time to make sure that there's not extra spacing in there, that there's not all these extra words in there that aren't needed, and just include the important stuff. I think that, one more thing that I've seen a lot from resume writers, flashy, colorful resumes with dotted lines and logos. I bring this up because it is distracting. The recruiter, the hiring manager, wants to, again, quickly glance at your resume and come away with the meat, the important information. We want it right in our face. If we have to dig, to dissect, to try to figure out what your experience is, well, then the recruiter will typically take some more time. I mean, I feel like that's my job. Let me figure out if this is a potentially good fit. But if the manager doesn't recognize, your company, or they have to search for what you did there, they're probably going to pass because they don't have time for that. And you're already not using their time wisely before you even get to the interview. So things like this you want to keep in mind. So no logos, black and white, plain, simple, easy to read, 1-page resume. Thanks for watching. I hope that you found that helpful. If you liked the video, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.